Hello mate, my name's Gareth and welcome to Eno Wrestling. My name is Gareth and I've already said that. So, Today we're going to be looking at what the Owen should be in AEW. The Owen, of course, being the tribute tournament that AEW are going to be putting on annually to honour Owen Hart's legacy, which I think is a great thing, a great idea. It's just so great that AEW have been allowed this privilege by Martha Hart and the Owen Hart Foundation as well. I think that's fantastic to let fans kind of still celebrate him within a wrestling context. I think that's just great. What we're going to be doing in this video is going to be going over mainly my idea as to what I want the tournament to be, the philosophy, what I think it should be, and also then what it should mean, kind of in the grander scheme of AEW's calendar, I guess. I think, a lot of people have their ideas, and this probably isn't going to be realistic, let's be honest. Probably isn't going to be what AEW do. It's just my idea and what my hope is. I think it's quite unique. I haven't seen anyone else suggesting this, even though it's kind of in line with what people have suggested. I tweeted out yesterday about what people wanted the tournament to be, and most people came back with something similar to the G1, and also something that can kind of honour Owen Hart. So some people were saying something like King of the Ring kind of style, maybe all in one night or whatever. I've kind of gone away from that, but there's a bit of King of the Ring, a bit of G1, and it will make more sense as we get into it. So the first thing we need to explore before we dive into the meat of the tournament itself is the philosophy of the tournament, what this should kind of mean on a larger scale. And the first thing I think would be really great is a focus on the youth within the tournament. So not necessarily having a young guy win it, I think ultimately we'll get to what I think, that side of things should be. But a focus on the youth throughout the tournament, which AEW do very well anyway, so I think this will likely be what a big part of it. So I've put Daniel Garcia down there. He doesn't have to win the tournament, but he can have a good run, particularly someone like Daniel Garcia, who obviously has similarities in terms of his wrestling style to Owen Hart. So yeah, I think that would be a really great thing, because it kind of it just breathes new life into the company. The next thing is to establish new stars. So obviously Owen Hart himself got to a high level, but he was never able to become that top guy, which his talent probably deserved. So guys like Pac, maybe a guy like Malachi Black, maybe a guy like Andrade, maybe a guy like MJF, guys who are kind of on that, almost ready to kind of hit there. These are the guys that you can really use this tournament to establish, rather than giving the tournament win to a guy like CM Punk. Maybe some years you can do that, but generally I think this tournament would be better used as a way to kind of springboard, new pushes and really solidify someone new. Even if they don't go on to win the world title, this can be kind of like a just almost there, rather than challenging for the title and losing. Ultimately, establishing new stars in a way that, obviously Owen Hart was never able to quite be utilised as. Particularly guys like Pac, who are maybe being a little bit underutilised just in terms of where their talent is, can use them to push them on to that next level. And the final thing is just to honour Owen Hart, and I think you can do that obviously through his wrestling style, and then also just things like commentary and stuff. Like anytime you've got like a little Owen Hart tribute or a tribute to the Hart family as in general, you can always throw those things in there on commentary, make those clear, and make it a real celebration of him. It would be great. I don't know how interested they are in this, but if any members of the Hart family, obviously some of them are within wrestling still. Bret Hart's obviously there, has worked with AEW before. It'd be great if they could be involved in any way, just because that would be fantastic. But ultimately, I don't know exactly how you do that, because I don't know what the possibilities are, and I don't want to speculate, but honouring Owen Hart is obviously the main thing that this tournament exists to do, as well as be a tournament within the AEW's world. So there's that as well. So that's kind of my three main points of the philosophy for the tournament: push the young guys, establish new stars, and honour Owen Hart as you do it all. Now, let's get into the meat of the tournament. We've got the brackets, and this is basically going to start off as if it was like a King of the Ring tournament or a general knockout tournament, which I know isn't what a lot of people want, but just wait, we'll get there. It's going to be 32 men in the tournament, and we'll go over the participants, I guess is the word, for this. So Jon Moxley, John Silver, Brian Pillman Jr., obviously I think his dad was good friends with Owen Hart. So, this is the kind of thing where you're talking about pushing new talent. Maybe he's one that gets in. That's an obvious kind of way to go, and it's obvious for a reason, because it would be good. Penta versus Eddie. Oh, that was Jericho as well. Penta versus Eddie, Miro versus Wardlow, that would be a fun match. Daniel Garcia versus Dax Harwood, that would be great. You know, that's kind of very much in the realms of, you know, old school wrestling versus kind of one of those technical guys as well. So that is very much in the realms of an Owen Hart kind of inspired match, I guess, which is why I kind of did it. Also, it'd just be really fun. Lee Moriarty versus Shotty, Big Shotty, Lee Johnson, of course. Then we got CM Punk versus Darby Allin. Obviously, Punk's very inspired by Bret Hart, and presumably Owen Hart as well. I think most people are inspired by Owen Hart. He was a trailblazer and he probably pushed wrestling forward as a whole, so he probably is inspired by him as well. And Darby Allin, obviously, they had their little match at All Out. Little match. They had a match at All Out, and that was great. So yeah, I think it would be fun to do that again. Ethan Page versus Alan Angels. You know, some of these are just random matches that will make up the tournament. Guevara versus Scorpio Sky, Dustin Rhodes versus Ricky Starks, Orange Cassidy versus Malachi Black, that'll be interesting. Andrade versus Fuego del Sol, Bryan Danielson versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Obviously that's Danielson again, one of these technical guys against a bigger guy. That'd be an interesting thing. Obviously we've seen Owen Hart do those kind of matches in the past as well. Jungle Boy versus Christian. Jungle Boy probably feels like the most Owen Hart like, not just because of his hair or anything, which is curly, but you know, it's big and extravagant like Owen's was. But also just the way he feels in the company feels very Owen Hart-ish, although Owen obviously he did have those heelish times, so you know, different from Jungle Boy in that way, but there are elements there which really feel like that. So again, Jungle Boy is another one where you could really focus on pushing him. Ray Phoenix versus Lio Rush, that'd just be crazy. And Pac versus Dante Martin, again, would just be amazing, so just put it in there for that reason. So then obviously all these guys face each other, or they face the guy they're paired with, and then we get guys coming through. So I put Pillman through past Jericho. I think that's the kind of result you could do in a tournament like this, where Jericho can ultimately take a pin. He's been pinned by Scorpio Sky like 5 times or whatever it is. He can lose to Brian Pillman, and that can kind of be a thing of, you know, passing the torch kind of thing. I think that would be a good way of doing it. You know, Pillman beating a guy kind of that era. Obviously Jericho was maybe on the tail end of what, you know, Owen Hart was doing, at least in terms of WCW and WWF as it was at the time. But yeah, Pillman getting the win, that's the kind of thing where that would be really cool, basically. Eddie versus Miro in the next round there. Daniel Garcia defeats Dax Harwood and then faces Lee Moriarty. That again is a match where you're again focusing on that tribute to Owen Hart again. CM Punk then takes on Ethan Page. That's just a match. Sammy Guevara will then take on Ricky Starks. That'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? Malachi Black will then take on Andrade. And this is another thing this tournament can do, is it can throw up these matches where not only, for example, Eddie Miro, you can kind of play off past history, but with Malachi Black and Andrade, right now there isn't really a reason for them to have a match, but this could kind of be a reason for them to have a match, and it's a way to get a match that we might not otherwise get for at least a good few years. And that would obviously be an amazing match in itself, but the fact is this tournament can kind of give you the room to do that in a natural setting, rather than having them be like, we're battling for rankings, because why wouldn't you just go and fight someone else, you know? We then get Bryan Danielson defeating Powerhouse Hobbs, and then Jungle Boy overcoming Christian Cage. Again, as I spoke about Jungle Boy, similar to Brian Pillman, I think that's a win you can give him, and again, it feels like in some way you're building off that Owen Hart legacy, which would be good. Ray Phoenix defeats Lio Rush, and then Pac defeats Dante. That one again, both in Death Triangle, similar to Malachi Black versus Andrade. It's a match you probably wouldn't otherwise get, but a match which would be amazing. So why not use this tournament to try and build in matches like that? That's the kind of another thing I'd really like to see from the tournament. But then from these 16 men, we then go down to 8 men. So we get Moxley going through, Ricky Starks going through, Eddie Kingston going through, Malachi Black going through, Daniel Garcia going through, or you could do Lee Moriarty, but you know, I just kind of picked one. Bryan Danielson going through, he does defeat Jungle Boy, but again, these are the kind of matches where you can really make Jungle Boy look like a star, and it's more about the future for him anyway. CM Punk gets past Ethan Page, and then Pac gets past Ray Phoenix. So now we move on to the blocks, and you can kind of see them set up there. And put block A and block B, 2 blocks, 4 men in each. Makes sense. 3 matches because they all face each other once. You could even do it twice, and that would only take 6 weeks, but this would only take 3 weeks if you do 2 matches on Dynamite, or maybe 3 matches on Dynamite and 1 on Rampage, or 2 on Rampage. You could easily do that, you know. So I think that'd be fantastic. Do the more important ones on Dynamite and do the other ones on Rampage, something like that. Makes sense, doesn't it? So yeah, we'll just go through this and you can kind of see how it works. But basically, the number one guys from each will go on to face each other in the final. You get 2 points for a win, and no points for a loss, and 1 point for a draw. Again, makes sense. So we've got Pac versus defeating Punk. And then we've got Bryan defeating Daniel Garcia. And again, like I said at the start of the video, this is kind of fancy booking and stuff, but you can kind of fill in this however you would like it to go. As that goes for the this as well. You can kind of fill in the brackets as you would like, but this is just what I've done to kind of show you. So I'm not saying this should happen or whatever. This is just a general idea and had a little bit of fun putting it together, but it's not necessarily what should happen and all that. So then we obviously update the table. Pac and Bryan Danielson are on 2 points because they get the wins, and then on the other side we get Eddie defeating Black, Eddie Kingston of course, and Jon Moxley defeating Ricky Starks. So again, we update the tables there, and they're both on 2 points again. In match day 3, we then get Pac defeating Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson defeating CM Punk. And now I thought this would be quite an interesting story, for example. And this is I'm only using this just as another example. I just updated the table there. CM Punk, a guy like that, can be like, wow, he's had his honeymoon period coming back, and then maybe this is kind of a reality check for him as a character. And that's another thing you can do with these tournaments. You can use the failure within them as something that can push a story moving forward. Then, so that could maybe Punk thinks I need a change, and then he kind of becomes a little bit more gritty and eventually turns heel. This is the kind of thing. Tournaments are brilliant for storytelling. They're just the best. They're my favourite thing. So I've got carried away, but it's fine. But yeah, that's just my idea. And again, a guy like Daniel Garcia, him just being in the blocks is a big thing for him at this point in his career. So this is what I mean when I was saying about earlier about about pushing the young talent and establishing new stars, I guess. It takes him up to the next level, because him getting to the blocks, getting past those, through the brackets, that already takes him to a new level. It's already putting him in a class with other guys, which we might not have previously seen him with. So even if he loses all the matches, which, spoiler, he does, even if he loses all the matches, it's kind of okay, because I was thinking a 20-minute time limit for these, because they're going to be on TV. He can take, Bryan Danielson to maybe a 16 minutes. He can take a CM Punk to, 17 minutes. And obviously you kind of have to allow the TV time. Matches often don't go that long, but this is the thing with this tournament. I think it would be really great is if they did just kind of sacrifice a lot of the other elements of the show and really kind of gave a lot of this time in their calendar to this tournament, because it would be amazing. And my idea is the best idea out there, and I'm right. That was sarcasm. Malachi Black then defeats Ricky Starks in the B block, and then we get Mox defeating Eddie. No, he doesn't. Gets the draw, doesn't he? So we update the table. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley are on 3 points. Malachi Black's on 2, and Ricky Starks is on none. So then we go back to A block. Punk defeats Garcia, and again, and then we get Pac defeating Bryan in what is there as whoever wins the block kind of thing. So then we update the table. Punk defeating Garcia there as well. That can really light a fuse under Garcia, and then you can maybe build a feud off of that. Again, tournaments are the best. And then moving back to the B block. We get Ricky Starks versus Eddie Kingston, and Malachi Black defeating Jon Moxley. So that updates the table. We've got Malachi Black finishing on top, and that's the thing. He lost his first one, but he's managed to gain it back, and just some of these little things are just they're just fun, aren't they? They're just good. And that match between, because obviously we already have the context of Starks defeating Eddie by that point. Again, Black versus Mox then becomes whoever wins the block kind of thing, and there's so much drama you can pull out of matches like that. Just look at G1 finals or G1 on the last day or whatever. There's so much drama you can pull out of these, and it's just so natural, and it's a great way of doing something different. Tournaments are the best. So then we go through to the final, and as you can see, obviously going back to this, Malachi Black and Pac both finish top, so they then meet in the final. Number 1, this would be an amazing match, absolute dream match. Number 2, we go back to that thing that I said earlier about establishing new stars. Both these guys feel like they're just on the cusp of potentially world title, being a world champion. They can both challenge, but maybe you wouldn't expect them to win it yet. And they're two guys that ultimately, they have the talent where they should be in that conversation as being next champion or champion in the next couple of years at least. So this is a tournament, even if they don't actually go on to win the title after the tournament immediately. This is something that can kind of put them on that level, so that when maybe the next time they challenge after that is, and probably should be, the time they win it, but maybe it's more believable that they do, because you've already told me as a viewer, this isn't just any old guy, again, a guy like a Lance Archer who's challenged for titles where you never really believed he was going to win the World Championship. There's been others, Jungle Boy. It's always great to give those guys world title shots, but you never really believe they're going to actually win it in that moment because it's just not right. Or they're just not a big enough star. They're not thought of big enough, Whereas it's kind of like the Royal Rumble. If someone wins a Royal Rumble, you can generally always believe that they're going to win it. If someone wins a G1, generally you think, wow, they can be a world champion, even if not now, soon. So these are two guys that would fit that mold, and that's kind of where I want it to be, is not necessarily pushing a guy like a Mox or a CM Punk who doesn't necessarily need it, but pushing guys like this. And I would go for Pac being the winner, just because I think Pac versus Hangman, there's a little bit more to that, although they'll both be great feuds and great matches, so you could do either one, but that's what it should be, really, I think, for this tournament and how it should all set up. And finally, we come to talk about the prize, and, obviously we already know that the tournament winner will get a trophy. That's already been confirmed, and it'd be really cool because obviously Bret Hart came and he presented the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing 2019. And so it would be great if he, as long as he's able to, the one who presents the person with the trophy. That would be fantastic, first of all, if they were able to do that. Don't know whether that's realistic or not, but it would just be amazing. Or maybe you get someone like a Martha Hart or someone else who is, close to Owen Hart in some way. That would always be a nice way, again, reminding us about that, the history of Owen Hart and their legacy, and it kind of makes it feel bigger than just someone picking up a trophy, so that is one thing that I would say. The second thing I'd say is it'd actually be really nice if the winner got a title match, because I think it's needed, I think it really is, and I think that then this tournament can become something which we look forward to every year as something really big, whereas something like the Dusty Cup in NXT, whilst it was fun, it was just a bit of fun, and it wasn't necessarily a defining moment in NXT's calendar, It was there, and it was good, and it had its stakes, and it was good, but I really want this to push forward and become something like AEW's G1 or AEW's Royal Rumble, something that feels really big. So, the winner being able to challenge for the title, I think would be a really good thing. And I think it is necessary, ultimately. I think it is. But yeah, so you get the little trophy, or the big trophy, hopefully. Hopefully it's presented by someone like a Bret Hart. And then a title shot as well. You don't necessarily have to win that title shot, of course. But ultimately, that is the prize that I think that this needs to have. It needs to have those big stakes for me. So there we go, those are my thoughts. That's my idea for what I want this tournament to be. I'd love to hear your idea, if you think my idea is good, and what your thoughts are, if you have any other thoughts as well. Maybe you think of a way of actually improving my idea as well. Maybe it should be 6 men in the blocks, for example, rather than the 4, and you drag that bit on for a bit longer, maybe, because that might bring a bit more drama to it. And maybe gives us a few more good matches, allows a few more people to get into that block situation, for example. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like I say, let me know your thoughts. This was a different video from what I've done before. First of all, you can see my face, obviously. But it's a bit more of a ramble, me just spitballing an idea out there. It's much different from my other stuff, which is more thought out and, planned and, voiceover and all that kind of thing. This is more, I guess, a bit of a podcast where I'm kind of just throwing an idea out there and seeing what people think ultimately, and I'm hoping this starts a conversation as to what the Owen could be like, because I think it's interesting. Obviously we're going to find out. I think winter is coming in a couple of weeks, so we'll find out, I guess, more details then, but I'm hoping to, I'm putting this out in the world before that. Maybe Tony Khan sees it, maybe he thinks, scrap our ideas. Gareth knows what he's doing. I've got lots of videos coming, AEW focused, of course, and also just wrestling focused, I guess, because I'm going to be doing one or a little series. I think it's going to be a 3-part series, because the way I've been writing it, it's very long, so it'll probably need to be like 3 videos or something. But that's going to be focusing on breaking down how storytelling works in wrestling, or at least how it should work, because sometimes companies are terrible. I've got lots of ideas. They're coming. They're just taking a while to, actually get done. That's why I kind of did something like this, because it's just a bit more simple. So let me know if you like this more kind of simple approach. And yeah, maybe I'll do more of them in the future. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.